Hey everybody, I'm going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. Cool. I'll give people 2 more minutes and then we'll start it at 9:02. Hey everyone, this is Mac Morris. I'm the new climate focal point here at the Austin San Antonio Weather Forecast Office. Today I'm going to be presenting you with the Climate Outlook webinar for summer 2024 and kind of review some of the stuff that we had from this spring. So let's get started. So spring 2024 in review, it was warmer than 2023 with extreme heat over the Rio Grande Plains. Once again, we did have some significant rains over portions of the region, particularly northern hill country, portions of the northern I-35 corridor and the coastal plains, anywhere from 2 to 8 inches above normal. We still had well below normal precip for the southern hill country to the southern Edwards Plateau and through the Rio Grande Plains. Some of those deficits still a good 2 to 6 inches at least through the spring, and I'll get to more of that here in a second. It was the 3rd warmest spring on record for San Antonio from March through May. We already have 21 90-degree days through the end of May, and it was the 29th driest spring at Mabry. It was the 6th warmest. We already had 17 90-degree days, and it was one of the 45th wettest springs, so it's kind of right in the middle there. Pretty normal spring for rainfall at Mabry. And at Del Rio, it was a very, very warm spring. We had 54 90-degree days, 18 100-degree days. In fact, we topped out 112 in late May. So a very hot spring for Del Rio, and it was the 2nd driest spring, which kind of adds up when you think about things when it was the warmest on record. Now, as far as long-term rainfall deficits go, they remain, unfortunately, 365-day departure with normal rainfall ending at the 1st of the month. If you notice, basically along I-10 and points westward, along Highway 90 out towards Del Rio through the Uvalde and Edwards Plateau and even the Rio Grande Plains, significant deficits continue up to 5 to 20 inches of rain. So the long-term impacts do continue. However, the good news is spring rains did have a limited short-term drought impact over northern and eastern areas. And in fact, we've had some areas of drought removed from the northern hill country, from Llano, Burnett, Williamson, and points eastward. The bad news, though, reservoir and aquifer levels are still very low in central and western portions of the area and remain near record low levels in some spots. The drought improvements this spring were nice. However, we're not expecting significant improvement as we head into the summer, as typically our summer months are drier. That would depend on tropical stuff, however, so we'll get to that a little bit later. It has improved, but been completely removed across the northern hill country, but it has worsened over the Edwards Plateau and Rio Grande Plains. Image on the left is as of this past week, and an image on the right is from late February. So we did have some drought over the northern hill country that has been removed. However, that's mostly due to recent rains. There still are some long-term deficits, especially over Gillespie, Blanco, and even further south and west of that. Long-term drought looks to continue through the summer and even fall months as we transition back into La Nina. Like I mentioned, it's expected to persist despite near normal precip expected for the summer months. This is a look at the seasonal drought outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. We do have some stream flow and reservoir conditions that have improved somewhat, especially over the northern hill country and up towards the Fort Worth region and into Houston's region. However, for our area, most of the streams and reservoirs are still well below normal watersheds, which were in the below to much below normal category based on historical data. Some improvement was noted over portions of the Brazos River watershed and the Colorado River watershed from spring thunderstorms. The bad news, those watersheds and lowest stream flow going into the spring missed out. So it's basically areas to the west and northwest of the San Antonio metro really missed out, and even into Comal County, points westward from there, missed out on some of those heavier rainfalls. So lower stream flow in the Nueces, Guadalupe, and the Rio Grande watersheds. As far as conditions go at the lower Colorado region, we have seen some increases this spring with storage, lower Colorado, and that we're running well below normal levels in 2023. The same can't be said, though, for the South Central Texas region reservoir levels, which holds both Medina and Canyon reservoirs. Combined storage has been at or below the lowest historical combined storage since 2023. So it's been going on for quite some time. We are going to need significant rainfall at some point to help offset that long-term deficit. Looking ahead to this summer, the daily average temperatures could gradually climb from low 90s to upper 90s by early August. Usually entering a drier time of the year, but the second wet season usually ramps up late August through October. And flash flooding would be the primary severe weather type, as you can see there from reports from 55 to 2019. The latest 6 to 10 day outlooks and 8 to 14 day outlooks, I know folks have noticed there is a possible tropical connection that could work its way into South Texas. It's still yet to be seen how that might impact our region. Still quite a ways out, 6 to 10, 8 to 14 days out, but there are improving signs that this might bring some moisture up into our region. So certainly keep it tuned over the next week or so as we get more information on that. But we are expecting warmer than normal conditions. Those are likely to continue through the third week of June, and odds are tilted towards weather than normal conditions, though, even with the warmer temperatures. The summer seasonal outlook, expecting very warm temperatures, depicts about a 70 to 80% chance of above normal temperatures June, July, and August for our region. So it's going to be hot once again. Whether or not it's as hot as last summer is still up for debate, but areas out to the west, especially towards Del Rio, might even be hotter than last summer based on the lack of rainfall this spring. In terms of the rainfall signals, it's kind of right in the middle. No major signal for above, near, or below normal rains through August for our region. But there are some individual model components mixed in, with a few depicting slight wet anomalies and a few depicting maybe some drier anomalies. Monthly temperature and rainfall outlook, odds are leaning towards above normal temperatures, like I mentioned, for the month of June. But this outlook was released in late May before we had any sort of tropical possibilities for the middle to later part of this month. So that is certainly something to keep in mind. And some of this rain has actually already fallen, especially over the last several days. Long-term lead temperature and rainfall outlook, the seasonal outlook, like I mentioned, is going to be another hot summer, very warm, pretty good odds for above normal temperatures, leaning likely above for much of South Central Texas. However, there are equal chances for below, near, or above normal precip, and that certainly could change if we do see a tropical system. As far as La Nina conditions are concerned, it is continuing to develop over the East Central Pacific and over the Central Pacific equatorial waters. You notice some of those blue shades there. La Nina, we're transitioning from an El Nino to a La Nina, and that will likely be coming sometime this fall. So that's the status on ENSO. And then some of the model predictions from IRI favoring La Nina. Doesn't look like a particularly strong La Nina, but still La Nina nonetheless, and that usually leads to drier and warmer than normal conditions for our area heading into the fall and winter months. So that's something to keep in mind. ENSO has rapidly flipped to La Nina, which is quite common following a strong El Nino. It'll likely continue through the winter when local impacts are the greatest. As far as the tropical weather outlook goes, though, despite being in a bit of a El Nino still, which usually leads to lower activity in the Atlantic, because we have extreme above normal sea surface temperatures and weaker easterly trade winds, we're expecting a very active season for the Atlantic with quite a few storms expected. The latest outlook from the Hurricane Center has an 85% probability of greater than of above normal activity, which would be 14 named storms. So we're very likely to have an above normal season with 17 to 25 named storms, 8 to 13 hurricanes, and 4 to 7 major hurricanes. Now, remember, it only takes one weak tropical system to sit over South Central Texas to produce catastrophic rainfall. So be weather aware and follow trusted sources this hurricane season, especially weather.gov or even using the National Hurricane Center's website. The official outlook, like I mentioned, does strongly favor an above normal season. It doesn't say anything about landfalls though. So like I mentioned, all it takes is just one landfall to cause problems. Soil moisture still mostly back to near normal, but remain well below normal over the Rio Grande Plains and the Edwards Plateau. Slightly higher wildfire risk this summer than during the spring months due to the drier conditions out west. So in summary, we're expecting above normal temperatures and heat impacts, heavy rain, flash flooding, and river flooding, expecting near normal through August, which in summer are typically isolated in nature, barring a tropical system of some sort. Well above normal seasonal storm totals are expected for tropical conditions, but there's still a small chance for a near normal season. Pretty low, like I mentioned, an 85% chance for above normal season expected. That says nothing about landfalling systems. Like I mentioned, all it takes is just one. We're expecting near normal impacts from wildland fires due to near normal spring rains, but may trend slightly toward above normal later this summer if we don't see any additional rainfall this month. If anybody has any questions, I'm open to answer some of them. Okay, well, hearing nothing from everybody, so if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. You can also email me, mac.boris@noaa.gov, and I look forward to being your climate focal point for the near future, in fact, maybe in the long term. So thank you so much.